Are we live? Yeah, we're live.
Hey, I think we're live.
Hello, everyone. There's no countdown on this thing. This is Ray. I'm Ray. This is Dan. Say hi, Dan. Wait,
Hi, Dan.
You're over here now. There you are. Well, I can't point. There you are, right there.
Yeah.
And we are the Bearded Men of Real Estate. So thanks for tuning in to another week of the Bearded Men of Real Estate show, where we will dive into a ton of news headlines, talking about what's happening in real estate. We want to dissect these headlines with you. So if you're joining the show, you could comment live and we can talk about you and your comment. And the show is live Wednesdays around 12 o'clock Central Time. Dan is on the West Coast, so it's 10 o'clock there. East Coast is 1. And in the Mountain Time, it is going to be at, 11?
Yeah. Why are we bringing up Mountain Time?
Mountain Time's real interesting. We like Mountain Time. We've actually had a couple of guests recently from Mountain Time. We've had one that was the CCO. At a little shop called Remax. And we have one today, who I'm going to bring her up, that you can meet. Lyndsie! Yay! So everybody say hi.
Hi.
So, Lyndsie is one of the top agents in the Denver metro area. Or actually, you're the top agent in the Denver metro area, right? I mean, you're...
Yes. Yeah, number 1 in the metro area, number 7 in the States.
What?
Bam. Dude. So she closes a few deals every year. So we're really excited to have her. We're going to talk about a little bit, how she got into real estate, what they're doing now through the coronavirus and the impact it's had on their business. And there's an article at the very end of the show today that we're going to talk about. The headline is fantastic. We get to it. It says, thinking of buying or selling a home? There's a dark cloud looming over this spring real estate market.
Nice.
So we'll dissect the article and talk about what dark clouds may be looming. And, clouds sometimes can give birth to rainbows. So we'll try to find the rainbow or the silver lining if you want the classic. I'd rather see rainbows. Right. Okay, so I'm going to drop Lyndsie back down, and I'll bring her up every now and then as we go through the articles and the headlines to get her opinion on some of those. But Dan, before we get into that, actually, before we do anything, let's show Melissa Mara. Hi, Melissa. She's checking in with us today. So thanks for checking in. Just to show you guys that we can display comments just like that. But Dan, before we get into this Bearded Men of Real Estate show, would you mind telling people what this thing is actually all about?
I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met in 1986, Ray, you remember 1986?
Love 86, yeah.
Yeah, remember when you were kind of the cool kid in school?
Of course.
And all you wanted to do was have just some time to yourself. You didn't want to go to school that day. So you remember that? And you created like this whole thing around not feeling well in the morning. And you don't have to fool your dad. Your dad didn't pay much attention, but you really had to fool your mom and your sister. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. I had a professor, Ben Stein. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And he would say things like
Bueller.
Bueller.
There you go. Melissa said at a show that you are actually live. Oh yeah, that's true. That's another reason why we displayed the comments, so that you know that we are actually live. When this is put on YouTube later, you can comment and we won't be able to display it, but we can on comment. So
wouldn't that be funny if we shot it like it was live? Oh wow, there's another comment from we just displayed.
we just say comments from
erroneous comments. Oh damn. What'd you say about? Oh, Dan's looking great together. I appreciate.
I'm not going to name names, but there are shows that do that.
We'll name names later. We'll get into the White Claws later. We'll name names. Anyway, Ray and I did not meet in 1986, and I was not riding in the back of my dad's Ferrari while Ray drove madness through the streets of Chicago. We met almost 3 years ago now, and I had an idea for a show because I am in fact a bearded man of real estate. And when I first met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him as well.
Probably my green eyes.
He actually almost shot his eye out when he was a kid with a BB gun. Remember that?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yes, it is a great movie. Also from not 86, that's 84, I believe. Anyway, no, I also, when Ray and I got to talking, he actually had a layout for a show. So I had the idea for the show. He had the layout for the show. We combined Wonder Beard powers. And we created the Bearded Men of Real Estate, but we also noticed that we like giving value up front to our clients and to you guys. So the show is about giving more or being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
That is the real reason why we do this, because a lot of times throughout my conversations with clients throughout the week, these articles come up, and what's happening in the real estate market it's a topic of conversation, especially now when everyone's looking at it saying, how's the market? So the more information like this that you can contextualize and start to put together, it's like having pieces of the puzzle. You see the Fed do this, you see lending institutions do this, you see builders doing this, and you can start to piece together that puzzle and help your clients make the best possible decision for them and their investment. So that's the real reason why we do this show. And to quote Lyndsie Mann-Emerson, this is a good show. So she checked out some of we should put that quote somewhere on our page. Lyndsie Mann-Emerson, this is a good show.
This is a good show.
We need more quotes like that. If you could give us some quotes.
Yeah, but honestly, especially right now, because Ray and I noticed we both love stats and facts, and we both kind of like to be knowledgeable for our clients. But really, recently, I'm getting that question literally 5 times a day. What do you think is happening in the market? What do you think is going to happen? Where are we at? Where are we going to be? What's really going on? What are lenders doing? So my point is, you need to watch us and get your news from us. We translate it the right way for you guys.
And at the end of the show today, we're going to talk about a little bit of the indicators that we're watching. You can call them leading indicators, I guess. Home sales are lagging. Pending home sales are now lagging. So what are the leading indicators that we're looking at to figure out what exactly the market's going to do? I find it more behavioral than statistical. So we can talk about that shortly. Are you ready to get in the headlines?
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Right. So this first news story, March home sales, they drop 8.5% as sellers take properties off the market. And the coming months look worse. Dun, dun, dun.
There's a lot of that.
These are always gotcha headlines that we love. And this one is the headline, optional headline, could have been, no surprise, when everyone has to stay at home, they don't want people to come in and view their home. That could have been the headline, but 8.5% drop as sellers take properties off the market is what we're looking at. So this one is from CNBC. They said that the sales of existing home sales fell wider than expected, and 8.5% in March compared to February, to an annualized pace of 5.27 million units, according to the National Association of Realtors Seasonally Adjusted Index. Sales were just 0.8% higher than March 2019. Now, this would be something that I might lead the story with. Sales were 0.8% higher than 2019. And 2019, if you recall, had no pandemics in America. So these sales figures are based on closings that represent contracts signed, are based on, in late January and February before the coronavirus was shut down. We saw the stock market correct in like February. Lawrence Yun, chief economist in NAR, the first half of March held up reasonably well. The second half of March is where we saw the measurable decline in sales activity, which if you are a real estate agent looking at your own numbers, you're probably seeing that as well, where you had a pretty good number of closings in February and still in March. But April is looking pretty bleak, right? We're over halfway through April. I think there's been far fewer closings in April. But as we look out onto the horizon, May for us is looking pretty good. So I'm curious how that, for some of you who are real estate agents that are watching the show, I'd love to know for you is what's pending in May versus what we had pending last year. For us as a team, we're personally a little bit ahead of where we were last year. All right, let me bring Dan. Where are you guys ahead or behind in Cali?
As far as what goes?
The market in general compared to last year, previous year.
I mean, the first months, January, February, and kind of into March, we were ahead. Right, everything was booming, everything's going crazy. But now it's been, like I said before on the show, it's been just kind of a pause. So, and I think Mel has a good comment there. I don't think the coming months will be worse. A drop from last year, absolutely. But April, it depends how long this goes. But we're up until what are we going to say? 3 weeks ago, a month ago. I mean, we were on fire as a team, and then. But we're still taking new listings. I forget what the stat is. I think we have 10 new listings in the last 2 weeks. And then in the last week, I pulled 3 new buyers that are ready to go, you know? So it's really, it's just more of a stall, more of a pause. But again, we have to be very, very aware of what's going on for those who aren't ready right now or can't be ready right now. But I just think it's a pause right now. And then we're going to come out of this. Like you said, Ray, I think I'm excited for the months to come and what's going to happen then.
Right. Melissa Mars said, I don't think the coming months will be worse. A drop from last year. Absolutely. April will be a bomb, but things will get better. I think we'll start to see some of those numbers in reverse. One of the things that surprised me about what you said is that you guys are still taking listings. In this article, it said that regionally sales dropped across the nation, but the hardest hit was the West, down 13.6% month to month. So sales fell 9.1% in the South, 7.1% in the Northeast, and 3.1% in the Midwest. And this is where they were talking about the supply of homes for sale fell sharp, 10.2% annually towards the end of the month. So it is surprising that you guys are still taking on well, I'm not really surprised by your production, but it's just kind of surprising in general that more and more people in the areas that are still locked down are listed.
I mean, we haven't had any, I don't know, I can ask the team, but I don't think we've had any delistings, you know, any delisting homes.
Right.
And obviously there is less. As far
Lauren
as
Jean said, this is a quote from this article: homes are selling fast, we just don't have enough inventory. I would totally agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's still the same thing. It's still got to be priced right. The thing we're seeing more is there's a kind of influx of how do I say it, like lowball offers.
Right.
Like
people trying to take advantage of the situation.
Right. Gee.
Yeah. I'm going to bring Lyndsie up real quick and see kind of what's going on in the Denver metro. What's going on in your marketplace? What are you seeing?
It's similar. So our market is really, really seasonal. So actually our first and second quarter are usually the strongest that we have here. So we have 100% of our appreciation happens between January and June every single year. And then we go through what we call the summer slump in July, August, and September. They're the most vacationed months of the entire year. Nobody's in town. Nobody buys real estate. And then we usually pick back up a little bit as we go into fourth quarter. So, you know, as we rolled into the year, it looked like another very strong real estate year. I believe that the shift in the market, or a balancing in the market, was already starting to happen. We started seeing it about a year ago in the Denver metro area. So it was already happening. This obviously just really caused it to escalate really quickly. But we started the year out looking like it was going to be another really strong gangbusters real estate year. And then obviously the hit the fan, like end of March, and April has been pretty wild. But I mean, I think so we've been on lockdown. So we were declared, we were declared essential when the whole thing started. And then people couldn't follow the rules that the governor laid in place. And so then they took us off of essential. And so now for a few weeks, we've been completely unable to show homes. So absolutely no in-person showings have happened. So, I mean, our showing traffic, obviously, because of that, went down to basically zero. So we are being released from that on Monday, and we're already starting to see a spike. Like just over the last 24 hours, lots of emails on our listings from agents saying, hey, when can we get in there? We've got people looking. So nice. I read this thing yesterday from an economist that said that they think this is like a V decline, meaning that it declined really fast and then it will rebound really quickly. So I feel like we're starting to see that already here. I'm a little bit worried about sellers' expectations. Like, are they thinking that it's just going to go back to absolutely gangbusters the second that we open the doors back up on Monday? That scares me a little bit.
Do you think, you mentioned that in your marketplace, there were vacationers through the summer months. Do you think that the impact of the pandemic is going to limit the number of people on vacation and could increase your sales during the summer months? Or do you think about the same number of people probably going to jet out of there?
No, absolutely. I think that we'll see an increase. So I think what we're hoping and what we're thinking is going to happen is that we've delayed our spring selling season now to a summer selling season this year. So I've heard people calling it the great pause. And I feel like that's really what's happened, because it has just completely halted and stopped. And we're already seeing stuff start to trickle back in, which is good. We're just sitting on a bunch of listing inventory that we can't sell, and that's rough.
All right, I'm going to bring this up live. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to bring up the best comment so far.
There you go.
Jessica's talking about me. Yeah, I love you too, Jessica.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh.
All right, so I'm going to bring something up here on the screen for us to look at. This is a little bit off script, but I think it's going to add somewhat to our conversation. So let's see, you're in Colorado. So this is the showing time, and you could see whenever 2 weeks ago when he said you guys are not essential, the number of showings declined like crazy. But it does look like it's hit a bottom and it's starting to steady there a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hope so. We've been very lucky to be one of the top markets in the country the last 5 or 6 years. So, you know, I think there are buyers that are out there still. I'm more worried about managing sellers' expectations, because like Dan said, there's a ton of people out there that feel like this is the bottom that they've been waiting for, and we're not there yet.
And we get that, and you want to get to Melissa's comment, we can, but that's and we've heard it for what, 1.5 years now. So Melissa, she's the opposite. She's in New Jersey. I'm worried about my buyers thinking they can get a steal when when really there still isn't enough inventory and sellers are getting what they want. So true. But we've heard that for 1.5 years, maybe more, but buyers saying, I'm going to wait until the market comes back. They think another big crash is going to happen, and all of a sudden houses are going to drop 35%. And we have to remind people that the market is still strong, and now things might dip a little bit, but this isn't a housing crisis like 12 years ago. This is financial. This is a health crisis that's affecting things, you know, but we still need to be there for our clients when they need it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've from New Jersey, by the way, Melissa.
We've put properties under contract in the last 2 weeks while we've been on this lockdown, and they have not sold for a crazy price. I mean, they've still been probably within like 97 to 98% of list price, even in the site.
Yeah, that's good for both sides, right? That's good for buyers not having to pay over or pay all the top dollar, but it is dipping a little bit. And now if there was a little bit of a slide backwards, I think that'd be okay for everyone. You know, but this thing happening now, those buyers are like, cool, this is my time. They're going to drop 35%. I don't know if that's going to happen, because the people that still have jobs can still buy right now. And, you know, so it's just
Are you implying that there might be a dark cloud looming over the real estate market?
No, I'm implying that rainbows will be shooting out my bum right after this is all over.
Nice. All right, so let's go to the next article, and we can hit more on that in just a bit. I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I think it depends on 2 factors. There's a tease for later.
Wait, I'm onto something? I'm never onto anything. So you mean Lyndsie, right? Okay. As mortgage bailout balloons amid coronavirus outbreak, servicers finally get some relief. Now, Ray, I don't know if we're doing this story today, but there's another one we posted in BMORE Contributors. If you guys are not a member of that, you need to go over to BMORE Contributors, BMORE Contributors with an exclamation point, and you can see some stuff. We, Ray and I, and the contributors post a bunch of stuff there all week. It doesn't always make it to the show, but they're great conversations, and it's good stuff. But there is one about, you know, the Fed buying more bonds, trying to increase liquidity for the mortgage industry, but JP Morgan is kind of backing off on that. So I don't think we're hitting that one, Ray, are we?
Yeah, I got that one.
Okay, cool. So we'll get to that one. But if you're not a member of the contributors, go over there. We've only denied 3 people, but they've all been Russian operatives. So if you're not a Russian operative or ISIS, you'll get in. Anyway, from CNBC, for weeks, the mortgage industry has been crying for help from being left on the hook to pay for much of the government's mortgage bailout. Now they're getting some relief. More than 3 million borrowers have taken advantage of the mortgage forbearance program, which allows those with government-backed loans to delay up to a year's worth of monthly mortgage payments if they have been hurt financially by the economic fallout from the coronavirus. Borrowers would have to make those payments at a later date or over time. or you can just bundle it onto the back of the loan, like our video that Melissa shared, Ray.
Yes.
The angry New Yorker guy, Vic DiBattista. Mortgage servicers, however, the companies that collect the payments, were required to advance that money to bondholders for up to a year. It's kind of a large, having to advance that money for a year is a lot of, well, I don't know how much a year is going to be, but that's a lot. Now the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which regulates Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, has reduced that requirement to 4 months. This is a quote. The 4-month servicer advance obligation limit for loans and forbearance provides stability and clarity to the $5 trillion enterprise-backed housing finance market, said FHFA Director Mark Calabria. I love that band, Coheed and Calabria.
It sounds like a good cover band, actually.
Sorry, dude. If he does not have a cover band called Coheed and Calabria, he needs to start one. I'm sorry. That was really good up here. Mortgage servicers can now plan for exactly how long they will need to advance principal and interest payments on loans for which borrowers have not made their monthly payment. So not so dark cloud, a little bit of a rainbow.
So yes, I would call that the silver lining, right?
No, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Was that yours or mine? Was that a text that came through? Huh.
I don't think so.
Did y'all hear that? No.
Yes, there was a faint dinging in the background.
A ding. Yeah, I thought it came through. Apparently, I just received a text message. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go straight into the next article because I think a lot of these kind of piggyback on each other. Reopen the economy. That was what Barry Sternlicht worries about. Financial suicide from the coronavirus closures. So there's a lot of debate right now in our country about should we reopen, should we close, and how to do it. And this is being covered by CNBC because it's the longer the businesses stay closed, then the more they could be hurt. However, if they have to close again due to the spread of the pandemic and this stuff not stopping, then it could be even worse. So let's get into this guy. It'll tell you who he is in the article too. But there's this photo.
He looks like Joe Biden without hair.
He kind of does. Well, there he goes.
He kind of does, right?
Does look like, yeah, he kind of does look like Joe. So the possible destruction of the U.S. economy must be weighed against the diminishing health risk from the coronavirus. He said, quote, I actually think we should reopen the economy. We have to do it zip code by zip code, which is, in my opinion, a lawsuit waiting to happen, right? Like, why did you allow this zip code but not our zip code?
Yeah, the fair housing and fair.
Totally.
Totally.
Issue. Okay, so he goes on, whose $60 billion Starwood Capital Group has interest in luxury hotels, malls, and many other businesses. He said, we have to get going. The cost is too great. The government can't carry a $23 trillion economy, which that's pretty fascinating. I didn't know exactly that number, 23 trillion. You hear about the 2 trillion being thrown out there as a stimulus, which is really a relief package because it's not really stimulating much. Right. But in a $23 trillion economy, 10% ain't going to do much. So his call to action comes as more states run by Republican governors are announcing plans to open as part of their economy's new daily virus cases in the U.S. continue to slow. Georgia's table is one of the most aggressive in the nation, would allow gyms, hair salons, bowling alleys, tattoo parlors to open Friday.
Tattoo parlors? What?
I know, right?
Yes.
Elective medical procedures would also resume by Monday. Movie theaters and restaurants would start up again.
I'm going to get a praying hands right here on my neck.
He said you have to look at the social cost against the human cost. There's financial suicide and the death of the small businesses and the restaurant and the economy, and the global economy has to be weighed. So this last little part I'll read, and then you could read the rest of the story at CNBC. But the state stay-at-home orders and closures of non-essential businesses have led to massive spike in unemployment. More than 22 million Americans filed for unusual jobs claims in the past 4 weeks alone, basically wiping out all of the jobs created in the 10 years since the Great Recession. So there we go.
So I absolutely think this needs to happen. First of all and foremost, because I went to get donuts the other morning and they were closed. And when we went to Krispy Kreme, there were literally, I don't know, over under would be 75 cars in line.
Wow.
Because they have a drive-thru.
The whole not in my backyard arguments now, where hey, we would totally allow these apartments to come into our community and luxury apartments, and they look great. Yes, you could build it, but just not in my backyard. So I think everyone out there is like, yes, we should stay closed and we should do what we can to prevent the pandemic. But if I could have my coffee shop to open back up, so I could go in there, that I think that's happening a lot. And so people are starting to get at their limit. If I could get my liquor store to open back up.
Because it's getting really expensive to go to my local bar and take home mixed drinks. But I totally agree with it. We just got to be really careful, because you've seen like it's proven that if people are too close together and they congregate, then it's going to spread and there's going to be an outbreak in that little area. Right. And it's been proven all over the country. So the social distancing, whether you believe it's driving you mad or it's worth it, it is helping. Right. So I think we need to be really careful.
Yes. Yeah. Keep
that's going. Where the zip code to zip code thing, I understand. But I think you're right, Ray, is that, this area, wait, why was that area? Which local state board member pushed for his zip code to be open first so he can go get a haircut? Like, right. I think there's a lot of ways that they need to do it. It needs to be careful, because we've seen, like, before the show, I mentioned a funny Florida story that got confused with something else, but they opened up beaches and it was like, just people on top of each other.
Yeah.
So while I do want my donuts, I also don't want this to keep spreading. I want this to slow down in lieu of, until we find a cure or a virus or I'm sorry, a vaccine or whatever.
I feel like people are going to have to learn to live with it in order for the economy and jobs and everything else to continue to operate. And I don't, it's interesting whenever you think back to what it was like before everything started shutting down. Arkansas never really closed everything down. We closed some non-essentials, but who's to say what's not essential? So there's going to be a lot of thought experiments that go into this in the future. We are a nation that is all about the individual rights. And here we are asking an individual to voluntarily give up their rights to do what they want in order for the common good.
Yeah.
And that is something that a lot of people have said for years about various policies. And I'm wondering what extent that will be called upon for people to give up and sacrifice what they're comfortable or what they want to do, or not wearing a mask, or not going to the beach, or not being around people, not going into a restaurant because you see a bunch of people there. Who's going to sacrifice that in order to not spread this? Or is it just going to start going through people like crazy?
Yeah. Well, I think we just need to be aware of it, but, that it's a thing. But every time I go out for essential goods, I don't, forget that the donuts are essential, by the way, but I have it in my head that this might just be the new normal. What if this is just how it is for the next forever? That
there are a lot of people in Asia that wear masks all the time through various times of year because of smog and pollution and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
Could it happen here where people start wearing masks all the time? Yeah, I think if masks are fashionable, which I have a relatively fashionable mask.
Oh, I have a new fashionable one coming. But by the way, LA smog free in less than a month.
Very good.
Gee, weird.
There's some silver lining.
So I just I think people need to adopt that mentality that this might just be the new normal, because it's not in some cities, yes, it's been full on lockdown. You can't do this because there's been outbreaks or whatever. But we've been more, if you're ill, self-quarantine. If you're feeling any symptoms, self-quarantine, and then practice social distancing. And now around our city, we have to wear a mask. But even that's been alleviated a little bit to where we're now more, if you're close to people, or if you're going to pick something up, if you're in a store, you need to wear a mask. But if you're out on a bike ride, if you're climbing a mountain, you don't need to wear a mask. But I think people, I don't know if we, how do I say this, right? I don't know if we like the fear, but I think people feed into it. Yeah, people feed into it like crazy, and they think that it's this airborne thing that's just everywhere and it's trying to murder us all. No, I'd have to sneeze on you, which I sneeze on a lot of people. It's a thing I do. Just kidding. But you know, you just have to be aware of it. So it's loosening up here, and I can sense that across the nation, and hopefully people will chill a little bit.
Melissa says that my girl Amy had masks already from her trips to South Korea over there in the past few years. It was almost like a fashion statement there, which it is quickly becoming here. I've got a very fashionable mask. I'll show you in a bit. Before I do that, let's talk about the home builder confidence.
But no smog in LA. I'm here. Hold on. I need to do this. Is some
no smog in Arkansas either, but that's just because it's Arkansas, so we don't have smog. Michelle West checking in. Hey, Michelle. And I know we have, I'm looking at the view count. We have a lot of viewers that are lurkers. So don't be a lurker, be a commenter.
Come on, guys.
I really want to get to the end of the show today. So we got to move through some of these articles pretty quickly. So go ahead, Dan.
All right. So we got home builder confidence. It's down. Next. I'm just kidding. A crucial indicator of home builder sentiment has just suffered its biggest monthly drop in the index's 35-year history as the coronavirus pandemic hammered the American economy. Builder confidence in the market for single-family homes plunged 42 points to a reading of 30 in April, the lowest point since June 2012, according to the latest National Association of Home Builders. That's NAHB. The survey dates back to 1985. The HMI reading was expected to drop to 55. Anything above 50 is considered positive. The last negative reading was in June 2014. This month's survey was conducted from April 1st to April 13 after millions of Americans have been issued orders to stay home to stem from the spread of the virus, prompting historic waves of business closures, layoffs, and furloughs. This is a quote. The unprecedented drop in builder confidence is due exclusively to the coronavirus outbreak across the nation, as unemployment has skyrocketed and gaps in the supply chain have hampered construction activities. That is from NAHB Chairman Dean Mann, a home builder and developer from Shrewsbury, New Jersey. They say,
and it seems like from what Lawrence Yoon was saying, we still have a shortage of inventory. And even if all the investors with that aren't paying money decide to sell, that inventory is going to be in the lower third of the market in which builders aren't building anyway. So
right.
I feel like this is just a pause.
It is just a pause. I think this is, I think it's interesting because builders and things are still deemed essential. And I'm still seeing construction around here on residential and otherwise. Things are still being completed. Things are still being, moving forward. So I do think it's just a pause, and we will see a rebound, because also new construction, how is the main way they sell houses? People they physically go see the house.
Yeah. And if they can't get out and go see it, then that's not going to bode well for new construction.
Right.
And also, if they can't get a loan for it, that's the other thing that may hamper home sales, including construction loans. So let's talk about these banks are pulling back from mortgage lending. Here's what it means for the housing market. So we do have a couple of banks. This is, let's see, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. There's a couple of other big companies that have traditionally done home loans that are pulling back from the markets. Federal Reserve is buying hundreds of billions of dollars in mortgage-backed securities, boosting liquidity for banks and encouraging them to lend more to jumpstart the devastated economy. But JP Morgan Chase, the nation's fourth largest home loan provider, is heading the opposite direction, having just raised its borrowing standards, which we talked about that last week. If you recall, we were talking about the 700 credit score and then 20% down. So their decision to back away from mortgage lending, along with similar others, could have dire consequences for the hobbled housing market, industry pros said. Here's a quote. It's going to make housing crunch. It's going to make a housing crunch that we have not had, said Ken Thomas, South Florida independent banking analyst. More plainly, he said it's going to hurt the housing market. That wasn't a great quote. Let me find a better quote. Here's another one. One of the most important things, I'm just being honest, one of the most important things for the housing market is going to be the liquid financial market, said Ralph McCullen, chief economist at House startup that partners with home buyers to share the cost of owning a home. You already remember that? We talked about this group whenever they started up. So JP Morgan's move appears to run counter to the Federal Reserve moves to boosting the liquidity. So in basically what we have here is several big banks pulling back from mortgage lending. You wonder if that's going to hamper mortgage lending, or is it going to open up opportunity for other companies that couldn't previously compete with them that now can enter the market and begin mortgage lending? It's going to create more opportunity for startups. These are, I think, great questions that we'll see. And I think that's a good reason why we live in a capitalist market. It will also be tougher, I think, for them to re-enter the market, especially the faux pas that we're going to hear about a lot. They had clients that were under contract and they changed the lending requirements and those clients dumped their contracts. That is not going to sit well with a lot of borrowers. And the more people that hear those stories, the harder it will be to trust those companies again.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, I did. I said New Jersey. And she said, please don't say Jersey like that. But that's exactly what I was thinking, is that they need to be careful if they pull too far back. And Clayton with the best comment of the day.
I wish my beard looked that good. I agree, buddy.
But
Melissa Mars, the builders are still going here. They just cleared space and did the water sewer hookups for 18 homes down the street.
Nice. But I do think lenders need to be careful, because then those new startups, like you mentioned, Ray, that come in with their own money, they can have new guidelines they'll pull all the money in, because I think a lot of new startups need to be a little careful right now because they don't know the long-term effects of this.
Or maybe if there was a startup like maybe just a little company that just kind of recently launched into mortgage lending that would still continue to loosen their practices, maybe like Zillow, or if there's companies like that, they could see this opportunity and go, oh, we're in big time. Because it doesn't appear to be a super big problem in the housing market as a whole. It's simply an economic issue.
Yeah. Well, in my
Howard checking in the show. Hey, buddy. That's our Israeli correspondent, Howard Broccoli.
Two of my newest buyers, one is Chase and one is B of A, and they're not 20% down. They have pretty solid credit scores, but it's nothing, it's not like it's 850 or anything. So
interesting.
Chase and B of A are still there, and their interest rates are at 3.5. So they're continuing to move on. All right, what do we got
for you? Let me get
Redfin CEO.
Yep.
Got it.
Gotcha. Yep.
All right. Demand for rural homes, Q Ray, shows profound psychological change due to the coronavirus, Redfin CEO says. The CEO, this one is super interesting to me because we've been talking about Ray. We have been talking about Ray, but Ray, we've been talking about more and more about live workspaces and people getting closer to their work in urban areas or downtown areas, and then what effect that has on the fringe markets, right? So this is people doing the opposite and going further out or farther because it's a unit of distance. The CEO of real estate brokerage Redfin said Friday that demand for homes has shifted to rural areas as people react to the coronavirus pandemic. I am tired of saying those words. I just hate it. And look to move out of the dense urban areas. This is a quote. We have seen that people are more interested in that house at the foot of the mountains by the lake, said CNB. He said on, that's Glenn Kelman, and he said it on CNBC's Closing Bell. Rural demand is much stronger right now than urban demand, and that's a flip from where it's been for the longest time, where everyone wanted to live in the city. We'll see how it comes back, but there seems to be a profound psychological change among consumers who are looking for houses. The thing that I don't want to mention anymore has led to ballooning unemployment in the United States, and construction has paused in many cities across the country. Governors in many states, including the northeastern part of the country, have extended their orders for staying at home into mid-May. There has not been a big drop in home prices, Kelman said, because new listings have declined more than the demand from buyers. Kelman said buying demand is down about 20%, but listing demand is down about 60%. Which has kept prices from falling. He finishes with a quote. The people who are selling right now are the ones who have to sell, and that's still an essential part of the U.S. economy. Damn it.
And Redfin knows their data. They've had a lot of time to crunch data since they laid off about 41% of their people.
That's all they're doing now. They're crunching data.
That's all they can do. Oh, Jade. Sorry. So more home shoppers are willing to buy without seeing property first. So I'm going to go directly into the next article, in part because I want to get to our guest, but also because it directly applies with what we've been talking about, the changing behavior of buyers. We've been doing this for a long time, where we'll do FaceTime showings with people that are relocating to an area, or we'll do 360 tours, virtual tours, VR, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it seems like the majority of the market is now starting to pick up on this, that this is a trend and it could actually work for folks. All right, so let's dive into the article.
All these
more home
agents are like,
shopping.
oh man,
I know I should have.
and now they can't get it to happen because the demand is so high.
More home shoppers are willing to buy without seeing a property first. So during a time when people are told to stay at home for their own good, they're still shopping. According to a survey from Realtor.com, about 25% of shoppers said they would buy a home without stepping a foot in it. As more people are remaining socially distant, technology is taking center stage. In March, Redfin saw a 94-fold increase in video chat tour requests. What do they do with all those requests if they're 41% of their agents are gone? Zillow had a 191% increase in the creation of 3D home tours. I'm bad at it. Uncertainty around COVID-19 and the limitations around social interactions, group gatherings like open houses have made buying and selling a home more difficult than ever, said Nate Johnson, Chief Marketing Officer, Realtor.com. As real estate agents and consumers seek out ways to safely complete these transactions, so we believe that technology will become even more imperative part of how we search and buy and sell homes moving forward. 47% said they would prefer to see a home in person. 23% said they would prefer to go alone. 13% prefer on video. 6% prefer their agent go to the home and doing it via video chat. So there you go.
Yeah, even before all this happened, I've gotten clients into escrow without them ever physically seeing the property. So
yeah, we've done that a lot. It's not unusual.
Yeah, and not just to see the property, but actually in escrow. And then the first time they see it is at the inspection, or depending on where they're moving from. But so it's interesting to see that we've always provided, meaning we and our team have always provided this top level service. Now people are like, I need to do some virtual video now.
Mike Elizabeth Brodell said marathons of doomsday preppers will have this effect.
I love them. Those are my favorite people.
All right, so we have two more articles, but they're kind of articles.
Well, I was going to propose something that let's skip the last one that you have just all together, and then let's go to the deep dive now and then read these two, because I do want to get.
Okay. I
would love to hear Lyndsie's point of view on my next one.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and bring her up now, right?
We got to go to the deep dive. Well, she can do it with us.
Okay.
Ready?
All right. She can do it with us. Have you ever done that? All right. You ready? There we are. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. There was a famous movie back in the day that made our position famous. So we appreciate their contribution to the show.
I wonder when we're nationally and world. I mean, we're known worldwide now, obviously, but when we're gaining millions and millions of viewers every week, I wonder if we're going to get sued for that. It's just a thought.
I don't think so. It's less than 5 seconds, and I think you could argue that it's common use.
And it's also us.
Anyway,
we're not playing a clip from the movie, right?
No,
that's right. So,
why don't you drill down and grill Lyndsie right now? Let's really get it. No, I'm just kidding. But which one do you want to touch on? My next one.
Why don't I just read the title?
Okay.
Ilhan Omar unveils bill to cancel rent and mortgage payments amid pandemic.
Okay, so if you haven't commented on the show, we need your comments now. This is where we say down below, right? This is So just what do you think?
Headline. Cancel rent and mortgage payments. Seems like a non-starter.
Just off the headline, right? So I'm going to read the article. I haven't read the article. I've had conversations about the article. I talked to someone that did read the article, but I haven't read. I'm going to read it live. So, Linz, just off the headline alone, Ilhan Omar unveils, someone unveils bill to cancel rent and mortgage payments amid pandemic. What are your thoughts just right there?
No good. It's no good.
Right. No good. Isn't it what everyone wants, though, to not have any payments for 3 or 4 months?
I want a red Ferrari to show up in my garage today with no price tag attached to it, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing. No good.
Yeah. So, like in theory, right? People can't pay. We're already doing forbearance. People can't pay their rent, can't pay their mortgages. So, I just don't know why you would make that leap to just don't do it. We just don't need it. Let's cancel it. Because you got to think about. I don't know. So let me read the article. I have it up. Here we go. So Ilhan Omar has unveiled a bill that would cancel rent and mortgage payments for millions of Americans struggling amid the coronavirus pandemic. I'm tired of that. Under the legislation announced on Friday, landlords and mortgage holders would be able to have losses covered by the federal government because we just have money laying around. The program would extend for a month beyond the end of the national emergency, which was declared on March 13th, and would be made retroactive to cover April payments. The proposal comes amid an unprecedented housing crisis. 31% of Americans in rental accommodation do not pay rent at the beginning of this month, or did not pay rent, or could not pay rent at the beginning of this month. Millions have lost their jobs since. Federal answers have been limited. The CARES Act stimulus package included $12 billion for Department of Housing and Urban Development programs targeting homelessness and rental assistance, but those funds do little to address the needs of millions of Americans who now find themselves on the edge of acute housing insecurity.
Not acute, not acute housing insecurity, not like
not
that
acute, right? An acute,
right.
a very acute amount. So,
yeah, nothing about this is cute.
It would literally murder everything.
Yeah.
Paul Conti said, regardless of anyone's views, let's all agree that she represents the stupidity of wing of politics. Melissa Marr said, no. Howard Broadsley says, yes, everything free rent, free cars, free food.
Yeah. So if you're of a certain age, and I think it's Ray is on the cusp, so he's not included in this. I think Lyndsy's on the cusp, so she's not included. But
I'm young.
If you're born at a certain age, and then anyone before that, you grow up, you get yourself a job, you're miserable, maybe you hate it, but you pay your bills, and you sack up and you kind of get through life. Then you retire and you die. That's kind of the mindset that I've always been given, right? But then I learned on my own I should have fun at my job, and I do have fun at my job. But like this, like let's forget left, right, whatever. Someone brought it up. This would devastate everything.
Mm-hmm.
This would create a housing crisis that we're not currently in, by the way, right?
Yeah, we're seeing a slowing of sales. We're seeing fewer people pay rent, but yeah, so far you can't really call it a housing crisis.
Where does that money come from? We just print more?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think a lot of people are saying, is that even in theory, this doesn't break down well, because the amount of money that's already gone out through all the stimulus, people are wondering where that stuff is coming from. And eventually it lowers the value of the dollar, which then increases the prices on everything. So it doesn't seem to be.
I mean, I get the idea, and I get the heart behind it, right? Like, and it's a very altruistic, lovely, idealistic thing. And you can look at countries like Italy and things that they've done there, but right, wrong, or otherwise, regardless of your political affiliation or leanings, we aren't Italy. That's not how our country works, and we aren't built to be able to sustain something like this.
And that's also not how it's not having the same impact either.
No.
Like, to say as impacted as them would be a mistake, I think.
Well, I just think about the long-term effects. Sure, it's a short term, well, I mean, maybe this goes another 3 months. It's still, in the overall scheme of things, that's short term, right? But think about on the back end, when all of a sudden, after those 3 months, things become due. And, even when the economy, is it
that due in arrears, or is it forgiven, or what? But
happens? How can you forgive it though? I mean, with a loan, right? If you don't pay for 3 months, you could tack that onto the end, and then your loan payment, maybe your monthly payment goes up $50 a month, right?
Yeah.
So then technically, if that job comes back, then everything would be okay. But if you just say no rent, because it's not really, to me, it's not really the mortgage payments. It's a big issue, the rent, because that is a renter that now is not paying, and then a landlord that cannot pay. And then now that mortgage is not being paid. And now I think that trickles up quite a bit more. So I think it's like Lynn said, I think it's in theory, sure. Yeah. But to say it out loud, to make it like a thing.
Bill, Clayton said freeze rents for 5 years. That will kill the rental market and also make it cheaper to rent than buy, which means home prices will drop.
Sure.
Obviously being a bit facetious.
Yes.
Paul Conti said, yes, it would devastate the economy because history has shown that it would create a flood of unintended consequences.
Yeah.
I think what's tough in part about what's happening is it's so many different factors or pieces all happening at one time. So like we've been through a housing crisis, but we've been through unemployment crises, but this is everything all at once. And it's very, very fast, and it hit very, very quickly. And the measures that the government and the banks and all of these entities are taking are very, very fast, that it feels very scary to people because of how fast everything is coming down the pike. And it's weird. It feels weird and scary to see everybody taking what feels like permanent action for a temporary problem.
I feel the same way. I feel like there's some who are trying to see how far they can extend a socialist tendency in a capitalist society. How far can we push? How far can we go? Kind of taking a bit of advantage of the situation, which, like, I can't remember if it was Clayton or Paul said about the unintended consequences. Homegirls Co. says, school districts in Colorado are already concerned about funding for not receiving property taxes. These are the long-term consequences that we were talking about.
Yeah,
very true. So by taking away the property taxes and things like that are funding the schools, then you, I can't wait for the ad to be created during the political season that this politician wasn't for your school because they were trying to do something with the bailout that was keeping people from paying. Those are also going to be the unintended consequences. All those political ads that come out of some of these weird consequences that happen, people weren't thinking logically down the road.
And I also think another unintended consequence would be kind of how we said with forbearance. And we've all urged, if you can pay, if you have the means right now to pay your mortgage, pay it. Do not take advantage of this just because it's a thing. And then, so imagine with renters, I don't have to pay, I'm not paying. When they could totally pay it, they're still essential, or they just, I've always worked from home, and they're like, well, I don't have to pay it.
I feel like one good thing that may come of this, I guess objectively good, I feel like there can and will be more supply added to the marketplace from what I call accidental landlords. I think there were people who several years ago tried to move and they couldn't offload their property, and so they wound up renting it for a couple of years, and maybe they listed it for a month between renters, but really just put another renter in it. And now they get a call from the renter saying, hey, we can't pay. Now that person has two mortgages again. I think they may look at this and say, that's a risk that we don't want to take anymore. And I could see a lot of people putting their second home, the accidental landlord situation that did not work out, all sunshine and lollipops or rainbows and butterflies, as Macy said last week, where that didn't work out like they were planning. I can see them putting that property now on the market, which will create more inventory kind of in this lower third and maybe the bottom half of the middle, I guess you could say, because there are some more expensive homes in that category that are folks with accidental landlord situations. What do you see, Lyndsie? I know there's a lot of people in your area too that probably have the Airbnbs and they have the vacation rentals. What do you see happening with some of the people that maybe have an accidental landlord situation? Are they going to offload it, or do you think in your market they're going to probably hold on to it?
I think that there's enough of a little bit of fear and uncertainty out there that people will start to offload things. So that's actually something that I've been working on, talking to the agent side. I've been calling through absentee homeowners right now looking for those landlords where it might be a good opportunity for them to get out from underneath those properties. So yeah, I definitely think that that will happen. You know, I mean, the statistic says that the average American family is one paycheck away from a lot of trouble. So if you add in all these people that are holding on to properties because they couldn't offload them or they thought that a rental was really sexy and they don't really have what they need in the bank to hold it for a long period of time, I definitely think that you'll start to see people offloading those.
And that could be a blessing for a lot of people who are trying to buy, if only they can get a loan.
Right.
So if the supply increases at the same time that the demand decreases, now you have way more supply than just kind of a normal bump in supply. And so we could be in a situation where it's not such a seller's market for the first time in our marketplace. It would be since the fall of 2016. We've been short supply ever since. And we haven't had over 2 to 3 months of supply ever since that time period. So this could be a situation which in some markets, the supply may start to heat up and extend out to that 4 to 5 to 6 months of supply, which creates more buyer market situation for strong buyers who can buy with the stricter lending requirements.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's, you know, that's kind of what's been in the forefront of my mind the last couple of weeks is here in Denver, at least we've got a couple things going on. So we've got our typical spring season has been sort of pushed back because of the shutdown that we've been on. And then we also have the people that are struggling, right? That may have to legitimately sell a property. And now we've also got people that have fear around whatever it is. You know, maybe it's a good time to cash out on my equity and rent for a year, or I'm worried that the bottom will fall out and I'll lose all of my equity. So I'm thinking, you know, we open back up on the 27th on Monday. I really think May 1st will probably be a record breaker for biggest listing inventory days that we've ever seen in our market if you put all of those together.
Interesting. Well, what about a dark cloud looming? Do you think there is a dark cloud looming on the front of the market?
Okay, so first I think we have to delineate, are we talking to real estate agents or are we talking about the market in general, buyers and sellers? Because do I think that it's going to be bumpy and do I think that things are going to be different in some way after we come out of this? Yes, I don't know how yet, but speaking to the real estate agent community, I don't think there's a black cloud. I think there's like a shiny pot of gold opportunity right now.
Well, I think
there seems to be an opportunity for us agents one way or the other, whether it's becoming a seller's market or becoming a buyer's market. We can kind of adjust strategies.
Right.
Let me put up the article a little bit and we can kind of talk through it. It says, thinking of buying or selling a home, there's a dark cloud looming over the spring real estate market. And then they have a beautiful picture of a dark cloud. It says, not everyone is pessimistic. I've been planning to move to Sarasota, Florida for more than a year. Why would I let this stop me? Says one owner.
By the way, hold on, Ray, real quick. Can you scroll back up to that quote?
Yeah.
Everyone right now, for our viewers, now, if you're a listener on a podcast, you're not going to get this joke, but go ahead. Everyone right now, look at homeowner. Look at it very close.
Oh,
now
you'll never see it.
You're never going to unsee this. Are you ready? You're going to see meow right in the middle of that word. And you will never see anything else. Now that you've seen meow in the middle of homeowner, you will never see anything else.
Thank you. See that.
Thank you, Ray. Ray does thousands of videos every year, and that is one of his best.
I need to I'll resend that around. I'll put that on the Bearded Minute Facebook.
Isn't it one of your shorter ones? It's a quick video.
Yeah, it's a very quick video to illustrate a powerful point.
Yeah, meow.
Okay. So the growing list of disruptions caused by the coronavirus pandemic, add to this one the housing market. If you're trying to sell a home or buy, or just think you might list your residence at some point, you need to rethink things. John Quinn is a broker owner of Quinn Realty Group, so tag him, y'all. He had been excited about the prospects for the spring real estate market when the year began. His optimism has faded. Granted, he's in Highland, New York, so they've been hit pretty badly. Yeah. He said buyers aren't dropping off out of deals, but they're putting them on hold temporarily. If they hadn't gone into contract yet, they decided to hold off, and those who are under contract are asking for new terms. So this is an interesting trend, the renegotiation of terms after already being under contract due to the pandemic. He said this pandemic has created a whole new wrench in the marketplace. Slided home buyer interest, April 5th and 6th, 2020 survey by the realtor said 9% of members said buyer interest has declined since the outbreak. 59% said buyers are delaying home purchase. 57% said they're delaying home sales for a couple of months. So is this going to just pack everybody into the end of this coronavirus pandemic, or is it going to spread out over the next couple of years?
So for me, this is another situation where we need to be very careful. How long on the show, Ray, did we talk about recession is coming, recession is coming, recession is coming? And did it ever?
A year and a half at least.
A long time. And did it ever really happen? Did it ever really solidify?
No.
But
what we were looking at when we were looking at a recession is coming, we were looking at what was called the affordability crisis, where you had buyers that couldn't afford the home prices that we were seeing. And that was creating the affordability crisis. Home price gains would slow, but they were still going up. And that was due to the limited inventory, especially in the bottom third of the market or bottom half of the market, you could say. So that's what we were all looking at, saying, well, you can't continue to be unaffordable in housing, and houses continue to sell at the rate they're selling at the prices they're selling for.
Right. Now, as I say this, please understand, I'm not comparing these two. I'm just saying that they are similar in terms of what we said on the show, or maybe it was just me, but we need to be careful because we're going to talk ourselves into a recession. People are going to read the news over and over and over again and say, dude, a recession's coming. I better stop buying things, or I don't know. We're going to over exaggerate what's really going on because the news loves to do that. And we're going to buy into it. This is not a housing crisis. Housing is being affected, yes. But those of us who are still working in the industry need to keep working and need to be there for our clients who can buy and cannot buy right now. But we need to be very careful that we don't talk ourselves into a housing crisis. Housing is being affected, yes. Okay. But we cannot follow blindly what we're being told by headlines. Oh, there's a dark cloud. Well, shit. Damn it, I said a bad word. Well, I'm not going to buy. I was going to buy, but there's a dark cloud. I'm just not going to buy. We need to be careful. If you can buy and you can get a loan right now, houses are still there. There are still means to show houses, even if it's virtually. We need to be very careful. So I hate to get so, but sometimes I get that way.
Oh, look, someone made a plane analogy. That's fun.
Where's that? But
I hate to fly.
Oh, yeah. Remember the media loves to report the planes that crash, not the ones that land. That's true.
Right. But the thing is, though, is that we buy into it, and we need to be very careful right now that we don't buy it.
Vigilant. The article from Market Watch goes on to use several anecdotal stories of people that are delaying putting a sign in the yard, delaying selling their house. One guy wanted to sell and then travel the country in a RV, and they're delaying or stopping. So I think it just says how they're delaying. They're delaying. It doesn't say that they're making a different decision. It's in real estate, we talk about this a lot when dealing with, quote, objections, which are really just concerns that buyers and sellers have whether or not they want to move forward.
Yes. And
you could look at the coronavirus like an objection, but you could also look at the pandemic timing as a condition. And conditions are very different than an objection. An objection you can overcome because they're just sharing their concerns and they want to know, hey, here's my issue with using you, or here's my issue with selling a house right now or buying a house right now. And you can listen to those issues, and a lot of them are concerns that if you address those concerns, they'll continue to list and sell their property. But a pandemic can be more of a condition. And a condition is such where someone says, like, I'm not going to move until my kids graduate high school, and then we will downsize. Okay, when your kids graduating high school in 2 years. So that seems like a condition. Like, that is the plan. We'll move, but they'll move in 2 years when that condition is met. Or we will move once this money comes in from a settlement or whatever, right? So they have a condition that has to be met in order for them to move. We will move as soon as the pandemic is over. Right. So there's a condition. Those conditional moves still happen. And unless someone makes a different decision just because their plans change, usually when those conditions are met, the people move. And so I would continue to stay in contact with everyone that's telling you now that they're going to delay or they don't want to do it right now. That's a condition. And when that condition is met, you contact them back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm trying to find another one of these stories here. The outlook of home prices. So it says, for home prices, 63% of the National Association of Realtors members surveyed said the buyers are expecting some decline. So the buyers are expecting a decline in home prices. I expect to see a temporary dip.
Expecting or wanting?
Probably both, probably because of the affordability crisis. But here's the deal. If there are fewer buyers in the marketplace and there's a lot more inventory, there will be either a slowing of the gains or flattening of that curve, or a slight decline in home prices as sellers have to become more competitive.
Right.
But if there are more buyers, if the lenders loosen those restrictions as quickly as the supply is coming back on the market, it should remain relatively stable. And I don't anticipate seeing a big decline.
Well, and they tightened them real quick, so they should be able to loosen them real quick. And like the Redfin CEO said, buyer interest has declined 20%, but sellers have declined 60%. So it's still too many buyers for those markets.
It needed to balance anyways. Like that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is like in Colorado, in a healthy market, we should escalate about 3 to 5% in equity a year. For 6 years, we've been over 20% every single year. That isn't normal and that isn't healthy. And everybody I know is going to Arkansas with Ray because they can't afford to live in Colorado anymore. So is there a balancing that will happen? Yes. Is there a balancing that needed to happen? Yes. Is this a crash where we're going to see 15, 20, 30% of equity being hit? I don't think so. And I think a lot of buyers will miss this very tight window that they have right now where they may get a little bit more of a deal waiting for that windfall that probably won't come.
Yeah. And by the way, Arkansas was first, so it's actually Kansas.
Yeah.
FYI, Lynn.
Okay. Sorry.
It's Arkansas and
Kansas because we became state first and it was Kansas.
But
so Kansas actually should be called Kansas.
Yeah. Hey, so our good friend, Jessie, she's out in, I just was watching one of her stories the other day. She's out in Arkansas as well. And she showed this beautiful ranch style home. I mean, I don't know how big the house was, but it was big on 7 acres, beautifully done on 7 acres, $125,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally responded to her story. I'm like, what? She's all, yeah, right.
Yeah. There's if you paid $1 million for a house here, it's a $20 million house in LA. Easy.
So Ray, what happens? Okay, so in Denver, people are very angry, longtime Coloradans, because we were like this really wonderful, well-kept, amazing secret for a long time. And now the secret's out and our population has tripled in 5 years and they expect it's going to do it again in another 5. And to speak to that point in that article about like everybody wants rural properties because they want out of the squeezing of the city. But like, what happens when we all come to you?
Well, wait, hold on. So First of all, Ray doesn't have legalized weed. You do.
That's true. I think that's probably the reason why the last 2 or 3 years you guys, well, we don't yet. I think it's coming though. I think they're trying to organize that. They've been delaying it like crazy, but I think it's well on the way here. So that's a good question. I think in theory, a lot of people are looking at rural, but then when you tell them, and it's only 30 minutes away from Starbucks. And I think there's a lot of people that aren't going to go that direction. You have to be a certain type of person and want to be able to drive everywhere. And the conveniences that are found so close to everything are not in the rural areas. And so you may have more people coming into Arkansas just because I mean, we're one of the 2 or 3 states that didn't even shut down everything. Everyone else finally did shelter in place orders and we didn't. Actually, our governors, what was really funny, our governor said that they were considering ways to prevent travel into Arkansas from shelter in place states. They were trying to discourage people from coming into Arkansas. because that's the way the virus was spreading here. Is people were bringing it from other states because they thought, hey, let's just go camping, or let's go out into the woods, and campsites were packed with people. So it is a concern, but I think it's going to take so long. I mean, it will take so long to catch up here and to really grow and expand. It's in an area that I don't think most people are worried about. But every now and then we try to put a really bad news story out there, and that kind of helps. We did the whole Amazon, it's not you, it's us, and rejected Amazon's offer to open here. And then just recently they actually opened a warehouse here. So they came anyway. But yeah.
They paid up for it though. So now what is Little Rock considered? Is there a hub? How big is the city? And then how far out does it get, quote unquote, rural for you, Ray?
Well, there is a Little Rock metro area, but you can be, so this is also the strange part. You can cross the entire city of Little Rock in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And you can be in the middle of nowhere in 20 minutes too. You could also be at the airport in 10 minutes. So it's a mix. You also have in West Little Rock specifically, you have a lot of development going on there because they can't go north because there's the river, and North Little Rock. They can't go south because that's a different city too. So West Little Rock is developing, and there's big housing developments and everything going in there, but they're becoming more like a bedroom community to downtown Little Rock proper. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's grown a lot since the 70s. Actually, there's a part of Little Rock that was considered West Little Rock that's kind of now in the middle of Little Rock. So like the old timers in Little Rock still call it West Little Rock, but no one else calls that West Little Rock. That's kind of the middle.
Well, it's kind of like when they built Central Park in New York, it wasn't central. They built it and they were at the top of New York, and then it all grew around it. So they built ahead. I don't know if you guys have known that or not, but it was not built in the center. It was built at the top, and then they built around it. So Central Park was not central. That was way ahead. Lord Frederick Olmsted, who designed and built Central Park, was way ahead of his time. I know
we have a couple of commenters, a couple of people watching from Arkansas, which I'm excited. Marcus Necessary says no smog in Bentonville. That's cool. And Ashley Ha, she's actually our executive broker at the Pixel office in Northwest Arkansas. She said, we have gotten many, many buyers in Northwest Arkansas from Colorado and California. Some keep rentals in other states and own a home in Arkansas. Many outdoor enthusiasts.
Yep.
And that is the big draw here, that you could be in the outdoors in 20 minutes, but you could also be at the promenade drinking fancy wine and eating steaks in 20 minutes too.
And that's how my city is. Literally, I can get to snow right now in 20 minutes. Or if I want to go to real snow, I can go there in an hour. I can go mountain biking right there and go on hikes. But I honestly want to go to Arkansas and just ride mountain bikes with Ray. Ride around.
I've heard the fishing is amazing. You're supposed to have incredible rivers.
We have tons of rivers and lakes. It's not like the rivers and lakes that you're used to. You can actually chase waterfalls here. We actually have a book of waterfalls.
Don't go chasing the waterfalls.
No, you should actually. And Arkansas is the one place that you should go chasing waterfalls. So Paul Conti says, remember guys, Tom Ferry and Steve Harney at Keeping Current Matters showed a slide where several financial institutions predict a sharp V-shaped recovery after the COVID crisis. Goldman Sachs was one of those groups that was predicting that V-shaped recovery. He also kind of put them on notice too. He was like, if they're predicting this for all the people that are investors and handle their money, then they're not going to be wrong, because then people start to pull their money from them and put it somewhere else. So I agree too. I think this is going to be a pretty quick recovery once we can all go back to work and everyone can go back outside. Which, did y'all hear that thunder? I mean, it's like thundering and storming.
You're hearing a whole bunch of stuff that no one else is.
Yeah.
It's in your head, Ray.
What's happening? Sorry.
That's it. Yeah, Michael Elizabeth Rodell. That's on y'all for letting Ray go there. Hey, we have a quotient of bad puns on the show, and we got to get to 2 every show. So I had one, and then Ray had one.
That was good, though. I really liked it. Oh, have you seen? This is totally off topic. Have you seen the meme of the protester and then the person in scrubs in front of them?
That was here in Denver.
Okay, hang on.
At least I think it was.
Meme. I gotta find this meme.
It's leaning out your
you
best
know,
friend.
you know the one? Yeah.
Trying to holler at him.
I
I thought
Yeah,
that was Fender.
it was this lady hanging out the side of a car, the passenger side of her best friend's ride, trying to holler at a guy with scrubs.
Yeah.
It's almost like it was planned.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
I like the one where the dude's wearing all the hazmat gear and the everything. He's fully covered up and he's holding a sign that says the pandemic is a lie.
Yeah.
What?
It said when your beliefs, when you don't, what is it? When you don't really have faith in what you believe or something like that. That's
Yeah. Like literally he's not just wearing, I wear a bandana when I go out and if I'm close to people, that's it. And then gloves if I'm at a store. This dude's covered in a full hazmat thing, the head, everything, his little face sticking out. He's got a mask on and it says the coronavirus is a lie.
How do you mask those beards, you guys, though? Seriously, like, because like I do this thing where I'm like, okay, let's make sure my cute little, like, do you like pull pieces out of it and make sure? Oh, he's just gone for it.
I'll show you right now. So this is my Los Muertos.
I do a bandana. There you go.
Oh, the sugar skulls. I like
That's
it.
really good. I love it.
So is it like tucked up in there?
Yeah. It's also glittery, by the way.
All that glitters isn't gold, though, Ray.
Let's move this so you can see. So watch. See the side? You go.
Beard fun on the Bearded Men Real Estate Show.
Yay! So smiling.
No, I had to run into CVS yesterday. So like the drugstore yesterday, and the girl at the front counter was giving me this horrible look. And I actually said to her, I was like, I'm smiling at you. I swear I'm not being rude. You just can't tell. And all these people laughed at me. And she was like, okay, thanks. Have a good day. Because it's weird. There's no like normal social cues.
Here, this is terrible though.
Extra.
So this is.
I have too much Botox in here to smile with my eyes, Dan.
You see what's happening? Do you see what's happening with my glasses right now? Wait.
Are they fogging up?
They fog up. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the worst. It's so the worst.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing it too, so I'm like,
our good friend Jessica Bush posted one of those yesterday. She's got a mask on and then glasses, and they're totally just fogged up. So I do a bandana and it goes down and then I tuck it up under. So, because
you could get them that are a little bit longer. Like if you make them at home about 1.5 inches longer and it'll go all the way around.
That's what she said.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's really weird. Like I would not want to, can you imagine working in a gas station late at night right now? And you're like, is this person here to rob me? Or are they being like a good person following their civic duty? It's weird.
Yeah.
And then the ones that come in, are they trying to get me coronavirus on purpose or?
Yeah. I like the, by the way, your mask, Ray, it's like a hammock for your beard.
A beard hammock.
It's a beard hammock.
Different from the banana hammock.
So good. And there we go. Now we're back to the red. And by the way,
if you make a mask at home, you want different fabric on the inside so that you know which side that you're using.
Tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks with the Bearded Men Real Estate. But
someone was in my office and I grabbed it to put it on, and they're like, "What is that? A swimsuit?" I'm like, "Really? You think? I think it would be a little larger."
That's their opinion of you, Ray. You can't even cover. I don't know.
There you go, right in the middle.
And we've
really digressed. With the best agent in Colorado, we've digressed.
Right. This is
okay. It's right on target for me. So, you know.
So I did want to ask you.
Invite. Yes.
I know, right? Watching you invite. I did want to ask you while we have you. You guys became #1 in the Metroplex. How long did it take you to get there?
I've been an agent 19 years, and I've seen all kinds of markets. So I started actually on the new construction side and worked for a home builder, a national home builder for 5 or 6 years. And then I went straight into REO, which is about as different as you can get because the market completely changed. So I went from big, beautiful, brand new homes to evicting people from crack houses, and that was quite the learning experience.
Cash for keys.
Yes. And then REO dried up, right? That went away. And so I've been on the regular resale side about 10 years now. And I would say the majority of our growth happened over the last 5.
Okay. So you've shifted, or I guess for some reason, like everyone's using the word pivot as what all the marketing for real
Yes.
estate agencies are
Yeah.
like, it's time to pivot. It's almost like they all had that planned. I don't know how fast they all came up with the same exact language, but I guess last time they used the word shift, and they used the word shift, and Keller wrote a book called Shift, and now they're using the word pivot. I'm gonna try to think of a different word. I'll work on that. But it
Try
sounds
not
like
to lose your mind during a very strange time.
sanity.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've pivoted several times in your career. Do you
Yeah.
ever see pivot up, or is this going to be more like you were encouraging sellers to go into the market as fast as possible because their home prices are outrageously high? Now you'd be, encouraging buyers to jump into the market because for once they can maybe afford a home. Like what is going to be your attack plan in the future?
Well, not to interrupt, but she did already mention it, how she's calling on the accidental landlords.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think things are shifting. I think that the shift was coming again. I said that, before this, the pivot, excuse me, the square dance. I don't know what you want to call it. The change was coming before, a balancing was coming before all of this happened. This just really pushed it to escalate really quickly. But, I think a lot of what's happening over the last couple weeks and what will happen over the next couple weeks is shifting to helping people with their mindset right now on both sides of the line. With sellers, it's not all doom and gloom. There may be a tiny bit of a black cloud hovering right now, but it will be okay. And on the buyer side, it's encouraging that it's still a good time to buy. So honestly, a lot of what I've been doing right now is just managing emotions and expectations, which is really tough. As you go into a shift, this is the hardest part right here. As you get into a market that's already been shifted, everybody is aware of what's happening and they understand. It's right now when you're having those conversations with people that don't get what's really happening yet, that it's really difficult and it feels really contentious. But yeah, it's funny that you asked that because Jeff Cohn, who's like one of my idols in real estate, he's in Omaha, Nebraska. He was on our podcast 2 weeks ago, and he said something, and I didn't even hear him say it when we were talking to him live, but when I went back and listened to it, he said that in the downturn during the recession, he focused more on buyers because he knew that there was a chance that a listing may never sell. With a buyer, he knew that if a buyer was pre-approved, eventually they would buy. And I've been kind of rolling that around in my head the last few weeks. And I went back and looked at my business and I was really buyer heavy. I had REO listings, but I was really, really buyer heavy as that shift was happening. So I do think
so with what's coming, do you think it'll be more buyer or more seller heavy?
I mean, we're always taught listings leads leverage, right? We're taught that you have to have the listings in order for the buyers to come in. And I've been a high volume listing agent for a long, long time. So I don't plan to change that necessarily. But I do think that as you move into a shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market, the buyers naturally have more power. So you have more power as an agent if you have the buyers, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think you're going to have to pivot to how you get those listings sold, right? I mean, maybe the days on market increases by 2 weeks, but you're going to have to pivot to how you get them sold, which to add on to your point, I think a lot of the agents, Lyndsy's saying that we've been expecting this for a while, this shift, this pivot, this change, right? But it happened so quickly. Those agents, kind of similarly to the crash, those lenders that were like, it's going to go on forever. Everything in California is going to be worth $1 million, even though it's only 500 square feet. Those that, to me, these are my words. They do not represent anyone else's, but I think Ray's going to agree with me that foolishly thought these things and just, it's going to keep going and keep going. And then what happened? We crashed, right? I think there's a lot of agents that believe that right now. Everything was fine. We're going to keep going. It's going to keep going up. I'm going to keep getting business the way I get business. I don't have to do anything different. I don't have to shift. I don't have to pivot. I don't have to change. I think right now they're being slapped with cold, hard reality that, dude, it happened real fast and you weren't ready for it.
Well, you have to understand, like, at least in Denver, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I mean, 85+% of our agent population has been in the business less than 3 years. So these people have never been through a different market of any kind whatsoever. So that's the crazy thing of what's happening, is that compound effect, right? It's like the news is spreading fear, agents are paralyzed, agents are spreading fear, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But in comparison to the last recession that we had, this does not feel the same to me.
Right.
Will things be different on the other side of this? Yes. But I don't think we're going there.
Right. And I say it all the time on the show and otherwise, but if this, there are a good chunk of agents that just shouldn't be in the business. They're in this to make money. They're in this to, buy a fancy car. They're in it
because it looked easy.
It looked easy, right? And now we're finding out, oh, dang, this isn't easy. They're not in it for the truly giving spirit like the three of us are. And I think a lot of good agents out there, but those ones that are just here because it's easy to find business, it just comes to you because we've only been in an up market since those 3 to 5 years those agents have been in here. Now all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I can't do a Facebook post and get a buyer from it anymore. What do I do?
And it's this isn't a bad thing necessarily, because a bull market makes everybody look like a genius, right? None of us, in my opinion, have been the sharpest or the best that we could be over the last few years, because it has been easier. So while it's really painful to go through something like this, it makes you better.
Yeah. And yes, Melissa, it will be a different kind of different. And I said it, those that are, that are lucky enough, I'm lucky to be on a team with Chris Murray and Andrea Murray, that they've been expecting this, just like Lyndsie said, just like Ray has said, they've been expecting this and they've gone through this. Mm-hmm. Now, Ray, you got into real estate just before, right? The crash 07?
Yeah. 2006, I was an assistant. I got licensed in 07.
Oh,
right. So you've seen it. Like you were like, this is awesome. Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I sold my first house.
And you've had to build it since then.
Yeah.
So I think those of us that have been planning this and that are ready for this, I think we're really lucky in that we can truly, we don't have to worry about it too much. We can truly be there for our clients and figure out still how to help them buy and sell real estate.
The one constant, I think in most marketplaces, the one constant is that when you add value to the marketplace will return that value to you. No matter what type of market you're in, no matter the ups or downs, if you can figure out a way to add value to your clients, to service your clients better than anyone else, to help them achieve their goals, and to give more to the marketplace, you will return, or the marketplace will return money to you in exchange for that value. I think that's the one constant that everybody can rely on. The question is, how are you going to provide that value? And that's the pivot. That's the shift. Yes, the marketplace is pivoting and shifting, but the one that you have to make as an agent is, where does your value come from? What's your value proposition, and how make sure that it benefits the client?
Ray, this one's happening really quick. Maybe we call it the switch.
Oh, I love it.
I like switch. It's like flipping a switch on and off,
because it's happening so quick.
I love that. Ray, does it feel like those days to you? Like, there's things that feel like that to me, but it doesn't. I don't think we're going there.
No, it's so slow.
Yeah.
It was, I sold my first house that day. Then I sold a bunch of houses here and there. And then it just kind of started to trickle off and people couldn't get a loan. And then my investors stopped buying because of the $770 billion bailout that was keeping people from foreclosing. The investors stopped buying because it was a false bottom. Then no one could get money and no one could sell. And that was the difference. And it was very slow. This seems very fast. And it also seems very fast on the uptick that we've already had in Arkansas, because we didn't shut down all the way. April, huge slowdown. May, we have more under contract in May than we had. We have as many under contract in May as we did in February already. So, and we're not done filling up May. So I think
it's gonna be May.
Oh my God. So yeah. I think you could say we're bringing sexy back. Really.
There we go.
I did not come prepared with my musical puns. What the hell, guys?
We don't. Ray and I don't plan anything. We're just on our toes thinkers. That's all.
Oh golly, there you go. All right. Well, Lyndsie, thanks so much for joining us on the Bearded Men of Real Estate show. You added beauty and levity and
I can't even be a beard. Oh, kind of. I could be a bearded lady a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You can be a goateed lady, I guess.
Chase Johnson said that I had to have a beard or I wasn't allowed on the show. So there you go.
That's an old rule.
Chase Johnson.
Yeah. His is running rampant, by the way. I love it.
Yeah. He's running rampant in general. I don't even know where he is right now.
We do encourage the guys to at least come on with a little bit of stubble.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thanks for not forcing me.
Well, we loosened it up quite a while ago, but when you bring this much value, and also things have switched in our business here on the Bearded Men Real Estate Show, that just with things, because as we go through these stories every week and pull them for the show and the contributors post them on the page, we get it's just always coronavirus. It becomes a lot. So we kind of decided, hey, let's have some people on. Let's make a happy hour. Let's have some fun with it. Let's add a distraction to this. So, and it's added great value to the show. And then for you guys, and then, I tried White Claws for the first time. Ray tried the horrible Corona
Claw is what I call it. It's not very good.
Yeah.
It's a seltzer. It's not very good.
I'm not drinking those with you. Those are disgusting. Good.
Yeah. It had like a Corona-y aftertaste, but it was a sparkling seltzer drink.
Yeah, that's like somebody peed in a seltzer water, basically. It's what that is.
In a LaCroix
in a LaCroix.
Well, and White Claws give you 6-pack abs, so I'm pretty pumped right now.
Yeah, that's true. You'll get them quick.
You did it for the claws, Dan.
Yep.
All right, so tell everybody where they can find you, Lyndsie. The social media networks.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram.
No,
what's your Instagram?
So
at what?
Facebook, she's what you see on the screen. Yep. On Instagram, though, you're different.
At LMann, MANN Realtor. And then I have a TikTok, which is like the weirdest thing ever. I can't stop. It's like now we TikTok and we don't stop. It's like addicting. So also,
is that right? Do I have it on the screen right?
Yes, that's it.
Hey, that was good. TikTok and you don't stop. There you go. You did it.
Yes, I got it. I'm jamming in my head. I can hear it.
She's had music on this entire time. She's not even listening to us. Hey, so for me, before you get to where you can find me, you already all know where you can find me. But guess what? In 26 minutes, I'm going to record a podcast with Lyndsie and her homegirls.
Yes. Yeah, so the homegirls, we are homegirls CO, like Colorado, on Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok, everywhere else that you can find us. And
they had commented earlier. If you scroll up in the comments, there it is. So you can click on that and find them too.
And we are not just for girls. That's, I think we didn't think about that when we named ourselves the homegirls because there's 4 girls, but most of the people we've had on the show are men. So
there you go.
Not just for girls.
Well, Girl Scouts, I eat those all the time. So I love Girl Scout cookies. Everybody, they're for everyone. So you can be homegirl CO and still,
Oh, that's why I've never eaten Girl Scout cookies. I thought they were.
Oh. Nope. No, you can eat them.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the forced child labor problem? Just kidding.
So I don't care. Those Samoas are life. Like it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
So we will record that today, and then I already told her that I'm going to totally derail whatever plan they have, and then on purpose.
Yes.
And then that'll premiere Monday. So yeah,
that's cool.
And then they might be able to get Ray on the show. I don't know.
We're hoping Ray will come.
Yeah, your people talk to my people, okay?
If you Dan it, Ray will come.
Yeah. She's already danning it, so Ray will. That's there you go. All right, D Littergrocks everywhere. DLUDWIGROCKS everywhere.
Yeah, and you can find me at Ray Zorback, RAYZORBACK. Where good Razorbacks are still. Thanks for joining the show, everybody. We'll see you later.
Love you guys. Thanks, Lance. Bye. We don't know when we're not.